Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through our calls, bottom line the information for you. We understand that you're busy people. You have other things to do, and particularly during the time of the coronavirus, I know that there are many concerns and financial issues that people are dealing with, and I'm certainly no exception to that. So, again, we like to move quickly through the calls. We have standard format. We spend a few minutes talking about the situation that exists in Iraq, as we continue to believe that the Iraqi dinar is the base currency for the reset, potentially of the other currencies. A few minutes talking about the program that we've put in place to assist you, and then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about what's going on in Iraq. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we like to share with you the information that we think is relevant. Of course, the most relevant piece of information would be the potential window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. And things are complicated there, but on a conditional basis, we're looking at the potential reinstitution over the next 45 to 60 days. Certainly a worst-case scenario would be pushing it back to January of 2021. I do not believe that that's going to occur, and I do believe the window of 45 to 60 days is possible. Of course, two things have to be resolved in country in Iraq. First, they need political stability, and second, they need completed currency reforms. Now, with regard to currency reform in the CBI, things are in a good position. The CBI is essentially ready to proceed. They've completed the project of the deletion of the zeros. They've issued the lower denoms to the 8 regional banks. Their operation is being overseen by the Finance Committee established by the Parliament. But unfortunately, we're still confronted with the problem regarding the formation of a new government, and we have the same usual suspects that are blocking it. Now, the new Prime Minister-designate, al-Zarfi, is in dialogue with all of the blocs. But as usual, the Iranian-backed Shia blocs are being very obstinate, being obstructionist, and for their own selfish reasons, simply want to see this gentleman fail. But Iraq is running out of time. There's a variety of things going on, the confluence of which could be devastating for Iraq if they simply do not get their act together and form their new government. First, we have the falling global oil prices, which is going to put a stranglehold on their economy because 90% of the revenue is generated from the sale of petroleum. Now, when they wrote their budget, they were looking at the price of a barrel of oil somewhere between $45 and $50. Now we're basically in the mid-20s. But the problem is, while the sliding scale of the price of a barrel of oil may be volatile, the cost of the extraction, refinement, and delivery remains constant. And so they're really being squeezed, and they need to be north of $40 a barrel for the budget to fly. So absent an increase in the price of a barrel very shortly, they're going to be looking at budget deficits. Now, there are some things they can do to mitigate against this. One of them is a very bad idea, and that would be just to simply print more money. Now, if they print more money, the provisional currency, they would be doing so primarily to pay the salaries of government employees. Now, these people have been paid through March. I see no reason why they can't postpone payments for a month, and that should be enough time for them to form the new government. But if they were to make the mistake of printing more money, it would be hyperinflationary. The new lower denoms and coinage that's in the possession of the regional banks would basically be worthless. They would have basically undone the last decade of collecting the 3 zero currencies. So I simply don't see how they can proceed without the reinstitution of their currency. Now, again, the reinstitution of the dinar and the increase in value is not going to solve all of their problems, but it's the only rational thing they can do to mitigate against what could be economic calamity. Now, there are a couple of other issues as well. One is the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus has not had a substantial effect on Iraq to date, but unfortunately, it has had a substantial effect on their bad neighbor, Iran. And this probably, kind of my conspiracy theory, but I would not be surprised at all to see the Iranians intentionally attempt to infect Iraqis, even the Iraqi parliament, in order to postpone Iraq separating itself from dependence on Iran. We also had a recent announcement by the Iraqi Hezbollah brigades, which are in fact proxies of Iran. They've announced that they plan to attack American military, diplomatic, and other facilities. Of course, that would be a mistake. The United States, through Pompeo, has responded with the fact that they would respond against Revolutionary Guard sites, including in Iran and Syria. Now, for them to go into Iran and Syria would be more of an escalation than they've done in the past. But in my view, that still wouldn't be enough to basically force the Iranians to stop their bad behavior. I know it's not going to happen, but I really think that taking out one of their major oil fields is potentially the only thing to make Iran understand that it's counterproductive for them to continue to interject themselves into the affairs of Iraq. But we're going to see how that plays out. Now, one of the reasons that I'm still optimistic about the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the next 45 to 60 days is not only the fact that it seems that al-Zafari seems to understand that he has to find a way to negotiate with the Iranian bloc. But it's got to do with something that Donald Trump is doing. I don't always like to bring domestic politics into this discussion, but I think it's relevant here. And again, I don't really care what your politics are. I don't care if you love him or hate him. I deal in facts. Donald Trump always works the long view. That's why, for example, when he instituted the tariffs against China, his advocates said, well, that's not a good idea. It's going to make the price of products in the United States increase. His response was, short term, there is going to be a little bit of pain, but long term, we're going to be much better off. And that turned out to be correct because we did successfully negotiate phase one of that trade agreement. But Trump's doing something else right now with this coronavirus thing. He's attempting, in my opinion, to end the Fed, the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve of the United States is the single largest producer of fiat currency globally. What Donald Trump has done is he has basically intimidated the Fed into dropping to zero interest rates. Then what did he do? He said we're going to spend anywhere from $2 to $3 trillion on the coronavirus and payment for infrastructure. What he's basically done is gotten $3 trillion to the American people, either to assist with medical assistance for the coronavirus, which of course is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and the funds necessary for the rebuilding of our infrastructure. He's done so at zero interest rates, meaning we don't have to pay the money back. What he's essentially done is he's bankrupted the Fed, and once the Fed is bankrupted, and it'll go through the bankrupt procedure. Who is an expert on bankruptcy? Donald Trump. What's going to happen is the Federal Reserve will probably, and the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, was established unconstitutionally and frankly has operated, in my opinion, like a crime family. So what's happened is by nationalizing it, it will now be under the auspices of the Treasury Department. It will not be an independent corporation. Now, the global system operates on these independent central banks, which lend money, which they just create out of nothing. So from our perspective, bankrupting the Fed and stopping the use of fiat currency assists us with the global transition to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies. Now, Donald Trump didn't do this so Dinarians could go to the bank and exchange their currency. Donald Trump did this because he thinks the global central bank system is corrupt, and it is. I merely point this out because in an indirect way, what he's doing will actually assist other nations like Iraq for the reinstitution of a currency at a rate commensurate with their underlying assets and not based on some arbitrary value placed on it by some unelected bureaucrat who will never know. So that's where we seem to be today. In conclusion, I'll just say once again, if things go well in Iraq, as I say, the CBI is ready to go. The Kurds seem to be satisfied with al-Zarqi. The Sunnis seem to be satisfied. It's just a matter of a couple of the Shia blocs, and hopefully if they can be accommodated without some absurd requests, then we can see the formation of the new government within the next 30 days, which means the window for reinstitution between 45 and 60 days is entirely possible. Now, that being the case, there's little time left to get your affairs in order prior to the revaluation of the dinar after its reinstitution. Most Dinarians are not wealthy people, and they will, for the first time in their life, be dealing with a rather substantial amount of money. To that end, Trusts Unlimited has put a program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your dinar and other currencies on paper to that trust product. Post-RV involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that you will need and that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and hopefully some of these other currencies. So let's start with phase 1, which is, again, the establishment of your pre-RV package of asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust product. Now, there are a number of entities one can establish to provide asset protection, but there is a reason why Trusts Unlimited has established a package of irrevocable trusts, and there are a number of reasons why that package must be established prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. For example, individuals can establish LLCs and sub-S corporations, and they can provide some level of asset protection, primarily by separating business assets from personal assets. The problem here, however, is twofold. First, these currencies are not a business asset, they're a personal asset. And second, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations owned in the majority by one person or a closely held group can be pierced for civil litigation. So the LLC and sub-S corporations are not going to be appropriate for our needs. Some individuals have established revocable or living trust, and the revocable or living trust can exempt your estate from the cost and delay of probate and can reduce and in some cases eliminate the federal estate tax. But revocable or living trusts can provide no privacy or asset protection, so they will be inappropriate for our needs. Lastly, some individuals have established single irrevocable trusts, and they do provide the highest level of privacy and asset protection, but there's an inherent flaw, and it's this. If any asset of yours is involved in civil litigation, that would necessarily bring all of your other assets and net worth into that litigation because they're all owned by the same single entity. Therefore, the only solution is to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established, again, prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. I want to review with you the benefits that you would derive from establishing this package of trusts. First, by establishing this package of pre-RV asset protection trusts, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity, because assets that are held within our trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will be able to avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you are holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will probably spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would certainly be frustrating because it would come along right after the revaluation of these currencies, and that's the last thing you want to be doing at that point in time in your life. And third, the cost of a 6-year audit would probably be more than the cost of our asset protection trust. On the other hand, if your pre-RV trust is in place and you have assigned your currencies on paper to that trust package, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit if this taxable event were to occur within a sophisticated trust package such as ours. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because within this package is a specially designed gift subtrust. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the U.S. dollar lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of the trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, you can gift to them through our gift subtrust. And there are some specific benefits to this that make it attractive. First, because you gifted through this subtrust, their U.S. dollars would be protected along with yours. Second, you, as the individual making the gift through the trust, would have complete control of those proceeds, meaning you could manage the money, invest the money, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. And third, the specific language of this subtrust gives this gift or allows this gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can give to these individuals the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it was designed to avoid the cost and delay of probate and federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs in a state of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or any of your heirs, they could simply file that claim with the probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess for that estate to be transferred to your heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it is completely and totally avoidable. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving that very same estate of $25 million to your heirs, but with one difference. The estate is now protected within our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The 5th reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer them to the trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone decides for whatever reason that because you're living so comfortably, they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the property at the time you transferred it out of title and into our trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a strategy referred to as segregation of assets. This is why we have established a package of trusts, and this is how it would work. Once again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million, and now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. This is what constitutes the package. Now, why is this superior asset protection? I'll give you an example. Let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars. You have an accident. The accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is the important component. All of your other assets and net worth are safely protected in the other subtrusts. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities or persons, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue a separate legal entity. So your trust package works very much the way a commercial barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of asset protection trusts prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, you will be eligible to participate in all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. The only way that would not happen is if, unfortunately, the coronavirus were to extend beyond the reinstitution of the currency, and we will see over the next few weeks how that plays out. Now, present at our seminar, whether it's going to be a live seminar or it's done through a DVD or through conference calls, will be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. Many of our clients have expressed a desire to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is with a direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there, because after acquiring this wealth, you're going to need much more sophisticated assistance with regard to tax strategies. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So again, you're going to want to get money out of the banks and work in other markets. Lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth at work in tangible assets to avoid that volatility. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV, your financial accounts like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, and the ability to manage the sub-trusts, one gift sub-trust which can at any time be converted to a standard sub-trust, and 8 additional standard sub-trusts to hold assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But a decade ago, when we decided to work with Dinarians, we knew that that price tag was going to simply be unaffordable for too many. So by basically simplifying the trust and postponing any funding till after the revaluation of the dinar, we've been able to reduce the cost of this trust to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we even have a deferred payment arrangement. You make an initial payment of $525, which sum basically offsets our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. Now, with this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust in place pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd be paying under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place for all of the reasons that I've just discussed here today. Now, we will be going to a Q&A in a moment, but before we do, and again for our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider contacting us to get our initial no-obligation informative package. Our trust was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this very narrow area. And I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. And it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so, they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil litigation, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them or lose them outright. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV, as we understand them. So again, thanks for taking time to listen to this call. I will be going to Q&A in just a moment. If the things we've discussed here are of interest to you, again, I strongly suggest that you get our initial package. So have a pen and paper ready, because when I open the Q&A, I will be giving you our contact information. You can contact us. We'll be happy to send you our initial package. It has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about trusts. Should you decide to proceed and establish a trust, everything you need has been included in the package. After reviewing the package, if you still have questions, you can contact us either by phone or email. We'll be happy to answer your questions, and there will be no consultation fee. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. First, we do not take service calls on the Q&A. Our existing clients can contact us by phone or email if they have questions. And second, for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD Calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing a 4, you'll dial a 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-pound. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that emails only go out very periodically pre-RV, but post-RV, actually post a reinstitution, emails will probably be going out on a weekly basis. So let's go to our Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 832. That's 832. Go ahead.
Yes, hello, Mr. Jim. How are you, sir?
Yeah, fine.
My name is Ray. Ray.
Oh, okay, Rick. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm here in Houston, Texas, and I've been hearing a lot that we're going to be waiting for the rate to change through the IXX for April the 12th. But I'm a little confused, even though I hear that question about the IXX opening up with the Iraq Stock Exchange on April the 11th to see a new rate. But I've been listening for about 2 years now, and I'm a little perplexed because normally I hear people talk about, other gurus and such, and even yourself, that a parliament has to be seated and a budget has to be approved in order for the rate to go. But I heard another guru, he indicates that almost that he doesn't really have to be concerned about a parliament or a budget to be approved, that we're just waiting for a rate to go in the IXX. So can you simplify that for me and kind of give me a little bit of understanding?
Yes, sir. First of all, I'm not a guru. I'm a currency holder that happens to be an expert in estate planning. So I can tell you this about the gurus. They've been in a 5-day window for 10 years. So, So, you know, what's that definition of insanity? You know, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I pay virtually no attention to them. I do not believe that there are groups that's going to get contract rates. I don't believe any of that nonsense. I don't believe in Jazara and Zara, the New Republic. I don't believe in any of that. That's just me, okay? I don't know where you're coming from, but I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. Now, the reinstitution of the currency does not necessarily have to have the Prime Minister confirmed and his entire ministerial staff confirmed. But there are some things that don't make sense about reinstituting a currency before these things have been done. Other nations and other people are not going to accept the value of the currency if their political system internally is not intact. For example, the IMF has Iraq as an Article 4 in Article 14. They're not going to reinstitute until their Article 8. Well, Article 8 requires that they have their government in place and that the CBI's completed all of its reforms. Their standing agreement was done years ago on that issue. As far as I'm concerned, to reinstitute before the government's in place and the budget's resolved is putting the cart before the horse. Now we have another complication. The precipitous fall in the price of a barrel of oil has completely screwed up the budget as currently written. It's written based on a price of a barrel between $45 and $50 because that is the projected revenue to offset expenditures. Well, if the price of a barrel of oil is $26, then they've got a shortfall. So, yes, they could still reinstitute the currency, but they still have to make accommodation for it somehow in the budget. So, again, wow. That's my son. We're quarantined out here in Houston, you know. Yeah, well, that's how I feel when I listen to the gurus. Anyway, what, in my opinion, has to happen is that they're going to need to confirm al-Zarfi. He's going to need to get his ministerial group in force. They have to come to some agreement upon the budget. They have to ensure that the CBI operations are performing pursuant to the oversight from the Finance Committee, and the auctions have to stop, and Iran needs to go away. All of those things can happen in the next 45 to 60 days. It's not probable, but it's possible. But what's not possible is the reinstitution of the currency before this other stuff gets done.
Okay. Now, being said, even though that it can happen, but can they also come back and do those other things in regards to Article 8? Even if they did let the reinstatement happen?
Yeah, I doubt it, but the only way they can proceed in Article 14 is if they come to some agreement with the IMF. So, and the IMF in the past has been flexible in certain ways with drop-dead dates and things like that. So there's a lot of moving parts here. The only thing I can say is, you know, if you get on thing with some guru and he says, hey, I got some super-duper information for you and it's going to, you know, reinstitute the day after tomorrow, they just don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
People they're getting information from don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, it was a little interesting. I did see how the IXX was closed in Iraq, and, you know, and everybody else is pretty much open. Like, you know, for instance, just for an example, our stock exchange, as well as even as well as Egypt, they have their stock exchange even open. Yeah.
Like I said, things are very complicated in Iraq right now. They're in a state of limbo, and the more radical factions within the Shia groups that are basically proxies for Iran. That's exactly what they want. They want Iraq to remain in chaos because that's the only way it's subordinated to the, it's basically Iran's piggy bank. And so they need the chaos. It's a shame, and hopefully it'll be resolved. The IMF, the UN, and the United States have all put Iraq on notice. They're all the sanctions are reinstituted in Iraq. Some of the Iranian-backed militias are now threatening the Americans in Iraq. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, one more question, and I'll go ahead and get out your hair. The one more question that I have, is there a deadline in regards to the Article 8 being completed?
I don't believe so. In other words, Article 8 is where they're they're hoping to get. In order to do that, they're going to have to check all the boxes. So until they check all the boxes, it's not going to happen.
I understand. I firmly understand. Okay. Well, thank you for your questions. I enjoy your conference call. It's very informational, and it's good to talk to someone that knows what they're talking about. And I really enjoyed the call. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Our next caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah, just from New York, have the currency auction stopped?
Excuse me?
Yeah, just from New York, have the currency auction stopped?
I'm sorry. For some reason, this connection's bad. I cannot understand a word of what you're saying.
Okay. I asked, is the currency auction, are they still going on?
Oh, the currency auctions. I made a call yesterday. I was told that the currency auctions have been reduced, but they have not stopped, and that some of the individuals still involved in this are individuals that have now been sanctioned so that neither they nor any of their assets can flow out of Iraq. That's what I've been told, and that makes sense to me because some of these people just refuse, to play by the rules. But they have been substantially reduced, but they have not stopped. And that is something else that has to happen. Relative to the first caller, the auctions absolutely have to stop in order for the reinstitution, certainly the reevaluation, to happen.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is area code 312. I'm going to take a wild guess. That's Les.
Yes, indeed. Hi, Jim. Good afternoon.
How you doing, my friend?
How are you? I'm okay. How are you?
Hanging in there.
All righty. I had a question, but I don't remember. It was regarding your opening remarks.
Let me take a guess. Did it have something to do with Trump bankrupting the Fed?
It could have been. Can you expound on that more?
Okay. We're going to have to go back into history to discuss the Fed. I'm going to try to give you the short version, and a lot of this is my opinion or interpretation. The Federal Reserve was established in 1913 along with the federal income tax. It was passed in an unconstitutional fashion. And ever since then, it's been nothing but trouble. I'll give you an example. In the year 1913, when the Federal Reserve was passed, the cost of $100 of goods and services was exactly the price of those $100 worth of goods and services in 1813. In other words, in 100 years, there was zero inflation and 100% purchasing power. So the Federal Reserve, which was designed to stop market volatility in recessions, was founded on a lie. It was unnecessary. It was done to control people, as was the federal income tax. Now, since the Federal Reserve was established, we've had a major recession. We've had a major depression and 8 recessions. And those same $100 of goods and services which you could purchase in 1813 and in 1913 cost you $2,150 in 2000 13. So in that 100 years, inflation increased 2,000%, which is exactly what the Fed was designed to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump, for all of his clumsy communicative skills, was 100% correct. The Federal Reserve and fiat currency is the problem. And in my opinion, what he's doing right now is he's bankrupting the Fed. He's borrowing trillions of dollars at zero interest. The Fed is stuck with nothing. They're going to be this is my opinion now. He's going to bankrupt the Fed. He's going to put the auspices of monetary and fiscal control back in the Treasury where it belongs. But the point I was trying to make was that helps us, because the elimination of the United States Federal Reserve System is the beginning of the end of the globalist central bank fiat currency system, which means that countries like Iraq's currencies will now be valued for what they're worth instead of some arbitrary rate from some unelected bureaucrat at a central bank.
Well, sounds great. I will accept that as my question, and I'll accept your answer and explanation.
Okay. I hate to get in the weeds with this stuff and interject personal opinion, but I've been so frustrated with the whole Fed system. We've had some landmark mistakes. The creation of the Fed, going off the gold in I think it was 1974. We went off the gold system, and we exchanged that with the U.S. petrodollar. And the United States, of course, got wealthy because they were everyone had to convert to the U.S. dollar in order to then purchase petroleum on the open market globally. And of course, the United States got the fee for the exchange. So, we just it just was mismanaged, and Trump's trying to end all of that, and that's frankly one of the reasons why they want to get rid of him. But we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens. The next 6 months are going to be extremely interesting, and of course the situation with this virus is heartbreaking. And my wife and three of my daughters are nurses. And one is actually working in a ward with coronavirus patients. So we're not happy about it. We're not happy at all. And at my age, and a little bit about my situation with chemo and all of that. So I'm on the short list of people that are in the crosshairs of this thing. So on a personal level, it's really debilitating. On a professional level, it can really complicate what we're trying to get accomplished here. But we'll see how we come out on the other end.
Well, Jim, I appreciate you, and thanks for sticking in there and staying in your solitude so that you're not infected
I'm
or confined.
That I can literally, I don't even have to go to an office. I can do this right from my home, and that's what I'm doing. I'm getting cabin fever.
Great.
It's bad. So,
great.
But anyway, that's where we are, and I still think that we got a shot at the reinstitution in the next 45 to 60 days, because in a backhanded way, Iraq is in a situation where they simply have to do something. They can't continue along this vein. So we'll see what happens.
We will see. Say hi to the professor, man, and thanks again, Jim. I appreciate you.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye.
Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the call. Of course, our calls are, again, every Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and next Wednesday, we will try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency call. Another way you can get around that is if we can't get an email out, you can go to YouTube or IQD calls and see if the Trust Unlimited had a call. It was not the scheduled Wednesday call. That will tell you that something happened and we decided to have an emergency call. Failing that, however, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.